welcome to the channel. It's Nicole Coco Patrice. I wanted to talk briefly about Brandon Johnson and the failures of his administration, the city council, as well as even just a little bit about the pretext of LA and the riots and how these ICE out anti-immigration raids and riots are basically, very much exposing the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party and have led to some really interesting culmination of events that now J.B. Pritzker is going to have to speak about. By the time you guys see this video, he's probably going to have already had to speak at the ICE, or not ICE, sorry, the Sanctuary City Trust Act, the hearings in regards to sanctuary cities. And he will be in front of the Congressional Oversight Committee tomorrow. So that is going to be very interesting. We will see how that works out for him. But this man in Chicago, Brandon Johnson, deserves every ounce of criticism he receives. But J.B. Pritzker, for all of the criticism we give Brandon Johnson, we need to be giving J.B. Pritzker like 10 times more. It's just J.B. Pritzker is a little bit more keen to not sounding completely like he's just full of himself and his heads up his behind. But Brandon is he's a special case, but he's actually just a useful village idiot in comparison to J.B. Pritzker, who is ultimately, not necessarily a mastermind behind a lot of things, but he's a lot more politically savvy and a lot more inconspicuous in his destruction of Illinois, because most voters really have no idea and they think he's just this godsend. And, he keeps getting to say that Trump bad billionaire, but in actuality, he's just as bad, if not worse, if, according to his own standards. So when you look at the state of Illinois ranking like 50th in, or actually 51st, like behind like Puerto Rico or something, like it's crazy. Or I guess, no, Washington, D.C. is who they included. But yeah, Illinois ranks behind Washington, D.C. And, yeah, as far as states who have economic, in their economic ranking of states. Let's see if I can pull that up. But yeah, there's just so much that he needs to work on. All right, so several recent reports and studies have ranked Illinois toward the bottom regarding its economic competitiveness and health, placing it around or even at 50th or 51st out of 50 states and the District of Columbia. And here's a breakdown of some of the reasons for these low rankings. High taxes. Illinois is frequently cited as the highest tax state in the U.S., okay, particularly regarding real estate and income taxes. Some reports indicate it has the highest second corporate tax rate in the nation. This high tax burden can make the state less attractive to residents and businesses. So, they do all this villainizing businesses and residents and, all of this catering to illegal immigrants and, those who are burdening on top of everything else, the tax system. That's who they're shifting the money towards, as well as their pet projects with their, developer friends and all of that. So it just overall is not a place that people want to live. This is why Illinois has been nicknamed the U-Haul capital. Let's see. There we go. Let's see what this says. So Illinois is the number 45th growth state for 2025 according to U-Haul Growth Index, analyzing one-way customer transactions during the past year. Illinois rises 3 spots from 2023 for its highest U-Haul growth ranking in the last 10 years. South Carolina also climbs 3 spots to dethrone Texas as the number 1 growth state. So 45th growth state versus Texas is the number 1, meaning more U-Hauls are ending up in Texas and less of them in Illinois because they're leaving, right? So Notable leading growth in cities include Illinois include in alphabetical order: Arlington Heights, Belleville, Carbondale, Champaign, Chicago, Cicero, Evanston, and McHenry. DeKalb, Joliet, Naperville, Normal, Oswego, and Plainfield are break-even markets. U-Haul customers coming to Illinois accounted for 49% of all the one-way traffic in and out of the state, 50.7% departures last year. Looking at year over year, U-Haul arrivals into Illinois fell 1.5%, while departures fell 2% as overall moving traffic slowed in 2024. Fewer people leaving resulted in a higher ratio of incoming traffic to outgoing traffic. U-Haul ranks growth states according to each state's net gain or loss of one-way equipment from customer transactions in a calendar year. So the state's net gain or loss in one-way equipment from customer transactions in the calendar year. The U-Haul Growth Index is compiled from more than 2.5 million one-way U-Haul truck, trailer, and U-Box portable moving containers transactions that occur annually, across the U.S. and Canada. So I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, but I've seen it in a meme several times. But here is Illinois way down at the bottom, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California. I'm really thinking this means people are leaving there because I hear a lot of people going to these top states. So I think I've got that right, meaning net growth of, right? We read that right? Sometimes I have to figure it out with y'all, right? Especially if I just pull up stuff on the fly. So U-Haul ranks growth states according to each state's net gain or loss of one-way equipment. So yeah, growth meaning it has more U-Hauls there. That's what it sounds like. So more people are driving to and taking one-way trips to South Carolina, Texas, North Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, Arizona, Washington, Indiana, Utah, Idaho, Oklahoma, Arkansas. So as you can see, mostly red states, right off the top. And then the bottom is these heavily blue states: Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California. Okay, you decide. All right, so got that out the way. And then so we're in a drastic economic condition. So weak economic growth here. Illinois has shown lagging economic growth with underperforming GDP, that's gross domestic product, and employment growth rates compared to national average. So your gross domestic product is what you're able to produce right here and sell out. Illinois is not doing that. Okay. All right. And then you got Moody's projected that Illinois will continue to underperform in economic growth in 2025. Studies indicate the state ranks low in non-farm payroll growth and overall economic activity. Fiscal challenges. Illinois faces significant challenges regarding its fiscal stability, including high public debt and unfunded pension liabilities. These fiscal issues can contribute to an uncertain economic environment. Low economic competitiveness. Studies focusing on economic competitiveness place Illinois among the lowest ranking states. There is little competition here. And then, the way Pritzker had us all on lockdown during COVID and killed a lot of small business, it didn't help. Factors contributing to this include a less favorable business environment, high taxes, and out-migration of residents. Okay. Other negative factors: high foreclosure rates, a high unemployment rate, high workers' compensation costs, a burdensome regulatory environment. Okay. However, it is worth noting that Illinois is still a significant contributor to the national economy in terms of total GDP, ranking among the top states. So we can dig into that a little bit more. It boasts a diverse economy with strengths in various industries like technology, finance, and logistics. A lot of that is just the fact that we're, in the middle of everything. It's just really, really no credit to any of our politicians. That's just geography helping us out, and years of railroads and having O'Hare and all of that. Chicago is a major digital and transportation hub, while rankings and forecasts highlight areas for improvement. Illinois also possesses significant economic strengths. And so, yeah, we can look into that a little bit more. But all of that to say, our dear J.B. Pritzker is going to take himself down to Congress, to the committee, the House Committee Oversight, and he's going to try to give the biggest spin that you've seen spun before. Charlotte's Web ain't got nothing on him. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I am looking forward to it. It's 9 a.m. on June 12th, and so we'll probably do a follow-up to this to just go through it. But let's change gears a little bit and talk about Brandon Johnson and the nightmare that he's created by not only seemingly inciting people to violence, but he's done so much to undermine he and the city council, to undermine just the rule of law. And it's really unfortunate because I don't like this person, and then he's on top of it making it more dangerous for all of us here, and we're just supposed to sit back and kind of just like deal with it, and it's just really unfair, Shout out to Chicago Flips Red.
Defense working groups in our communities, and we have. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Joel Casada, and I'm the alderman of Chicago's 35th Ward. This afternoon, a number of us, of elected officials, were mobilized because we are members of deportation defense working groups in our communities. And we have a network of groups that coordinate citywide. And the callous response that these people have is shameful. It is the very curt and cold responses that we sometimes receive by the Chicago Police Department. We have sanctuary laws in the city. We have the Trust Act, law in the state of Illinois. We want to make sure that our local law enforcement is compliant with the laws that we pass. We saw ICE officials and federal agents then start to amass vehicles to try and get into this driveway. Myself, Alderwoman Rossana Rodriguez, and Cook County Commissioner Jessica Vasquez then stood to block the driveway, because right now we need the moral clarity and courage to fight back against these harmful, evil policies. We as public officials and we as community members must stand up and reject these policies that are.
So you're fighting the police, you're standing in front of vehicles and vans that are detaining people and deporting them, mostly that I know of, rightfully so. I mean, none of this drama was happening when Obama was earning his title deporter in chief, right? Every president has deported illegal immigrants. The problem is that Biden let so many in this time around that it just seems like a big deal. And then you guys have been brainwashed by all of these Marxist ideologues that are pretending to be Democratic Republic politicians.
When our children and grandchildren look back at this time, they're going to wonder, what did we do? What did we do when parents were being ripped away from their children? What did you do when students were being disappeared and poor and working people were being terrorized? We stood on our values and we fought back. That is the resistance that we need in this moment. We need people to rise up and say in a unified voice that enough is enough, and we will defend the honor of our democracy, and we will never surrender our humanity under tyranny.
He literally thinks he's Obama / Dr. King / Malcolm X for the illegal immigrants. Interesting.
City built with working people and immigrants around the world. Never surrender, Chicago. Fight back.
So this was days before all hell broke loose in LA. So this is a good one. These are photos of what was happening in LA. Okay. You're waving your Mexican flag in front of the police. It's F the police, if it's F ICE, and we're spray painting things and we're setting fires in an already fire torn state.
It's so wild keeping track of both of these scenes.
This is erupting violence there in New York City. This is all outside of a federal building. That officer holding her eyes.
People are so upset.
A person seemingly being detained.
One woman, hands behind her back, being detained by officers.
Police are not.
It's so wild keeping track of both of these scenes.
This is erupting violence there in New York City. This is all outside of a federal building.
Threats of bodily harm.
It's so wild keeping track of both of these scenes.
This is erupting violence.
Okay. They're just setting real fires. Arid place that is dealt with been happening, and they were already declaring they didn't need the National Guard. They didn't want, the National Guard out there. They wanted their police to stand down, even though the police were having
we see one more person. Oh, that person being dragged across the street for a moment there, being arrested.
But we want to remind folks that viewer discretion is advised.
Oh, yeah. So we're starting to see some of these people being detained by what appears to be federal law enforcement at this point. We believe that these are Border Patrol police that are on scene. So these are federal law enforcement officers that are carrying this out as we see one more person. Oh, that person being dragged across the street for a moment there, being arrested.
We don't have time for this, okay? And our governor, our mayor, and our illustrious city council members, affectionately known here as the Hispanic KKK or the Vasquez 19, they have not come out and stated at all that people should calm down, that people should not be violent. And so we had a good share of, rioting, if you want to call it that. Looting. Well, I don't know if we had any looting, not like California. Shout out to Chicago Police Department for handling it as well as they could handle it. But essentially, folks were, causing, they're being shipped from town to town to cause problems is what it's looking like. And so we definitely could have been worse off. But here's some pictures from Chicago Contrarian. Whoopsie. Chicago Contrarian here giving us the scoop. I don't know. Can you see that? I think you guys can see it. So, Free Palestine graffiti. Fuck ICE on the police car. People blocking traffic, and looks like that's another police vehicle that was spray painted there. You got more of this big crowd here. One tactic I saw that they said they started was carrying American flags, some of them upside down to show their utter disrespect for their country, that they don't want to leave. Some of the flags, Mexican here. This one looks like a regular upright American flag, but I could be wrong. Don't trust it. All right. And so there's just been a lot of confusion. This happened yesterday.
The downtown streets. We do have video of what we just witnessed just a few minutes ago. Again, this happened at Monroe and Wabash during this protest of anti-ICE protesters. You can see this sea of protesters, about 1,000 people partying as that burgundy vehicle sped through the crowd. A few seconds later, we saw Chicago police giving a thumbs up, seemingly saying that no one was injured, but we're still, of course, reaching out to Chicago police about their search for that person. Again, we did see a burgundy vehicle with what looked to be a woman driving that vehicle through the crowd. No one seemed to have been hurt, but again, this crowd continues to grow here. We're seeing at least 1,000 or more anti-ICE protesters gathering, many of them in solidarity with the unrest seen in Los Angeles, as well as responding to the ICE arrest that happened last week at an ICE facility in the South Loop. Again, this is still growing. We're having multiple organizations gathering here, organizers telling us they will continue to.
A well-orchestrated, well-paid movement of useful idiots, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know. That lady had somewhere to go. You guys were blocking the street. Did you guys have permits for that? Okay. So there's a lot of stuff out here to see if you guys just go online, especially to Chicago Flips Red page. They were down there themselves and definitely captured some great images as well as footage on live, and we're heckling the crowd quite courageously there. So this is some footage they got from behind the CPD, some more F-ICE, some more FCPD in our beautiful city. No fascist USA, off with the king's head. That's a direct threat to Trump. Tag FBI. More FCPD. They're very eloquent, very poetic. Free Palestine. Thankfully, they're not teaching the kids cursive, so we can read this all. And this is, I'm sure, Zoe giving them the FU. They're confused. They're like, not a black woman mad at us. We thought you were on our side. Remember, this is the black. She was calling it the Black Lives Matter residue, and it is, because these people are crazy. So yeah, lots of footage on their page if you want to take a look. But back to what I wanted to show you. This fool, this useful idiot here. All right, so Brandon Johnson did a press conference, and at no point did he make any effort to clarify his stance on the violence, except that he's on the protester side because that's their right. Myself here, but
again, for us to walk through some of the matters that we are faced as a city. I'm joined this afternoon with our Deputy Mayor for Community Safety, Gary Gatewood, our Deputy Mayor for Immigrant, Migrant, and Refugee Rights, Beatrice Ponce de Leon. Our Corporation Counsel, Mary Richardson Laurie, is also here, and you all know my Chief of Staff, Christina Pasion-Zayas.
So yeah, let's get past here. He's just into this like dribble about.
It's 2 a.m. in the middle of the.
Their First Amendment rights. We also recognize that even in the midst of heightened political tension, the people of Chicago still need to get to work every single day. They still need us to drive down violence in our neighborhoods, which we still are.
Yeah, sure.
They still need ambulances as well as emergency services to be able to get through. So we have a responsibility to both protect the rights of protesters, but also to keep our city moving, no matter the circumstances. When it comes to the power of nonviolent protests, I want to make an emphatic point here. It was Dr. King that explained to us, I think he did an incredible job explaining this to us 60 years ago, where he said that the practical aspect of nonviolent resistance is that it exposes the moral defenses of the opponent. He has no answer for it, but if you use violence, he does have an answer. He has the state militia.
I don't get what his point is here, other than, I mean, you're using the King reference of nonviolence, but if there is violence, that's the state militia. Yeah, the violence of the state militia is what he was speaking of in that case. In your case, or more so in LA's case, the state militia and the National Guard and Marines were deployed because LAPD was overwhelmed. Okay. Do you see that? Okay. Protesters throw rocks at CHP officers from the bridge. This is on June 8th, 2025. Okay. This is downtown LA. Let's see if I can pull this up. That's not violent, guys. That's not violent. Who's supposed to pay for all that? Who pays for all that? That's not violent. Them throwing smoke bombs and whatever else this is. This is non-violent. You shouldn't call the National Guard for this. In no way, shape, or form. This is what MLK stood for, according to Brandon, and according to Karen Bass, and according to Governor Musco. Because cops don't have family too, right? Cops aren't Americans. Cops don't have family too. Hey, some cops might have immigrant family members, but I guess you don't care about that. But this was the mostly peaceful protest, guys. Okay? Just a few kids that, went a little crazy. Just a couple. Just a couple. This is your nonviolence. This is what King was talking about when he said that the militia would be deployed in violence to a peaceful protest. This is the peaceful protest. And now Trump has shown his true colors, defending these police who were not at all being assaulted. Never mind the civilians on the other side possibly getting debris on them, possibly getting smoke and things in their way. Nobody needs to use the expressway coming the other direction, obviously. You just watch. They're just watching the destruction. It's all fine. How'd all those rocks get down there, guys? Peace? Did peace do that? Was it an earthquake? You tell me. Okay. So mostly peaceful. And let's run it back again. What is he invoking MLK with? What lies is he invoking MLK with this time around?
He has no answer for it, but if you use of the aspect of nonviolent resistance is that it exposes the moral defenses of the opponent. He has no answer for it, but if you use violence, he does have an answer. He has the state militia.
So if you use violence,
that is exactly.
If you use violence, he has an answer, the state militia. Okay? And so they used violence and they got the state militia. And King was aware of that. And you're not aware that it's called violence because you think these were peaceful protests. But I'll let him finish.
What we are seeing in Los Angeles. When a small number of protesters set things on fire, it plays into the hand of authoritarians like Donald Trump.
Like Donald Trump. When a small number of percentage of voters still like you, it plays into the hands of Donald Trump. When your governor's going to speak in front of the Congressional Oversight Committee and you're still a useful idiot quoting quotes from MLK that are only proving that you're still a useful idiot, it plays into the hands of Donald Trump.
Who take advantage to ultimately repress all protesters. What we have seen in Los Angeles.
So this was him telling us to stop being crazy, guys. Don't be crazy kids. Don't be crazy kids throwing rocks at police, but still go outside. And we will totally back you up. And we will totally demonize the CPD. And we will totally investigate them every time they're out there. Like, wait, what are you doing? Serve and protect the community. Wait a second, 1 second. Let me check.
Los Angeles is really not about immigration. This is not about policy. This is about power.
Bro, what is wrong with him? This is about power. You're in a cult, okay? If you don't realize it, this is your cult leader, okay? If he's the face of the cult. He's not really the leader, but he's in there, you know, doing their work. Donald Trump. It's about power. He thinks he's got us, guys. Look at this. Don't be part of the 6.6% cult. There was a guy, you know, the Jim Jones, what was the other one where they put on the British Knights and Waco, Texas. Okay. I forgot what they were called, but there was a religious cult and they all wore British Knights and killed themselves. Okay. This is this guy here. He'd have you guys. You guys are really a couple steps away from ending up in bunk beds with British Knights. I was trying to think of an equivalent, but
We have a tyrant in the White House who has a complete disregard for our Constitution.
When you point your finger, it's 4 pointing back at you.
And the dismissing of our democracy. The First Amendment of our Constitution clearly states that the federal government guarantees.
Three pointing back. I'm better at math than he is at all of this.
The right of the people to peaceably to assemble. The right to peacefully protest is so fundamental to our country that it is the very First Amendment of our Constitution. And when we talk about democracy, we are not talking about just voting every 4 years.
And remember, that First Amendment includes rights of the press, which we'll see one of my favorite reporters get into. That reporter.
In a democratic society, the people are in charge, and the government is responsive to the needs of everyday people.
Hey guys, this is U.S. Senator John Ossoff in Georgia. And before you skip this ad, just hear me out.
When we talk about democracy, we are not talking about some high and lofty idea. We are talking about A. Philip Randolph's definition.
We're talking about idiots like you taking
to continue
away
to assure that all Chicagoans know their rights. We will work with our community partners to continue to stand up for our immigrant community and for all of our people in our beloved city. Now I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you may have at this time.
Okay, we'll start.
They're still doing the know your rights. They're still flashing that across the screen. You don't have to cooperate. You don't have to answer. And we better not see the police cooperating or we're going to take them in the back and give them a hard time too.
Right here with Justin. We have time for one question, one follow-up. We got to be quick because there's a lot of folks here.
Hey, Mayor. On the rideshare ordinance, you've said that you support workers, drivers, having a boost to their wages, but you have not endorsed the ordinance specifically. What about the ordinance has not gained your support so far?
Well, it's not a matter of whether or not it has my support or not. It's just a matter of making sure that we cover all of our bases, right? There's an entire review process that we go through to ensure that our pro-worker positions that we will work to codify will be able to stand up during, whether it's criticism or protest. We're seeing now that there are some places in America that are having second thoughts about abolishing the sub-minimum wage, where here we are in the city of Chicago, we're holding firm to our values.
Yeah, they're having second thoughts because they're looking at fiscal responsibility and the fact that a sub minimum wage is crippling small business owners, especially, like I said, in light of the COVID pandemic. And, Governor Pritzker's executive authority overreach and the fact that so many small businesses are suffering because they cannot afford to pay everybody $15 an hour. So you see cuts in services, cuts in workers, and you're seeing restaurants close all over the city of Chicago because they cannot keep up with this demand. And so, yeah, people are okay. I believe he's referring to the second thoughts of DC's Mayor Bowser, who is basically saying, no, I cannot afford to let my city crumble because people are being laid off due to this sub minimum wage requirement, because businesses are going to have, it's a tariff on business owners. And if you're tariffing the business owners on U.S. soil that provide services, you are cutting and losing American jobs. And so by standing for this firmly, which really just means you're stubborn when you're a 6.6% loser like the mayor we have of Chicago, that means that you're not willing to have other voices at the table and you're not looking into fiscal responsibility for all of the state and what that means long term. You're looking at short term headlines and short term political scores, points that you can score so you can come around during elections season and shake a couple hands and say, hey, I got the sub minimum wage abolished, and now everyone makes, there are no more tipped workers and everyone makes the same wage. And what that is doing is it's putting all the business into Uber Eats and all of these people who are driving Uber, which again, those are some of those black jobs that Trump was referring to. We can get into a whole nother episode about how some of y'all don't deserve those jobs because y'all was doing some crazy stuff anyway. But all of that aside, those are jobs that a lot of black people would have been doing, or a lot of Chicagoans or citizens of Chicago and Illinois in the United States could have been doing, but you're abolishing the sub minimum wage, meaning a lot of these jobs are going to turn this over to Uber instead of hiring their own delivery driver at, say, $8, $7, $9 an hour, and have them tipped to make up the difference. So instead, and let's also remember, because I worked in restaurants, that sub minimum wage, regardless, there was a policy. So this is really kind of redundant, that would allow for you to be paid by your employer whatever you didn't make up. So you could have the cost fall on the customer sometimes, and then that cost also fall on the employer if people did not tip. But now, because of this culture of non-tipping that a lot of people feel entitled or feel like they shouldn't tip, but now what that does is that then makes all of the restaurant owners take all of the brunt of it. And then you have people who are dining and dashing, you have people who are spray painting on restaurants, you have people who have been running into storefronts with their cars and stealing things out of the cash register. You have, all sorts of losses that these businesses are taking on top of the ridiculous amount of taxes from the state of Illinois, from the county, and from the city, all of these administrative fees and fines, all of these this overregulation on every front. And then getting rid of the sub minimum wage was kind of like the last straw for a lot of people. And so when you're looking around your neighborhood and you don't have quality restaurants anymore or quality workers in these industries anymore, you may have to blame Mayor Brandon Johnson, who doesn't want to have second thoughts about what is concerning you or business owners in Illinois.
So it's not about just getting it done, it's about getting it done right.
Is there a portion that you don't think is currently right and needs to be changed
Right,
before it goes up for a vote?
What we do is we look at all of it in a very comprehensive way. And as the most pro-worker city in America, I'm confident that we'll be able to continue to find pathways to
can have a clue.
Continue to strengthen our city as a pro-worker city.
In just the last
Short answer, I don't have a freaking clue.
7 days, 8,368 men have clicked the link on one of our ads that you've probably seen.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
It is good afternoon.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Thank you.
You're welcome.
This man is dead.
We've
on
seen
the
what happened in
inside.
Los Angeles, the federal government bringing in not only National Guard, but also Marines. Has Chicago made any special preparations to accommodate that kind of federal presence in our city? And are we giving any kind of thought to protest zones and ways to keep the downtown area open and free for business while First Amendment protests are going on?
You know, the first and foremost goal and our responsibility is to keep everyone safe and to protect the rights of the people of this city and around the country. And so constitutional policing is our prevailing form of leadership, and we will continue to ensure that constitutional policing is carried out. Look, we do this well. There were concerns that people had about my administration leading into the DNC, a lot of hyperbolic concerns.
We do this well, meaning him or meaning Larry Snelling in the Chicago Police Department and maybe Eileen Burke, because definitely not Kim Foxx and definitely not him. I mean, let's be real here.
Quite frankly. And, you know, look, we've demonstrated that we know how to protect people's right to assemble and to protect the Constitution while making sure that government continues to show up for people and that the everyday routines are not entirely interrupted. As far as, you know, what our preparation will look like moving forward, we do know that this president is determined to insert chaos.
You can't even go through one question without bringing up Trump in your city that he is not that obsessed with. You're obsessed with him. The only reason his focus may even be on him, on you, is because of your complete lack of respect for the office or the country or your own constituents and your own residents in Chicago. You can keep talking about violations of the First Amendment and your respect for the First Amendment, but you and your lackeys over there have consistently in City Hall violated people's First Amendment rights, including your own Alderwoman Mitz, when we were trying to vote for a sanctuary city referendum to be even put on the ballot, meaning, again, you suppressed our First Amendment rights by taking away our voice to say whether or not we even wanted to be a sanctuary city. But go ahead.
Our responsibility locally is to continue to provide calm and structure to this situation. It's a really terrible moment in our nation's history where families are being ripped apart, and you know, we also have just an absolutely criminalized approach towards governance, and this president clearly
when you break the law, it's supposed to be criminalized. Okay, buddy? Okay, buddy? You are going to jail. You're going to big time jail, sir. Let's criminalize you.
Continues to show how low he will stoop, you know, in order to protect the interests of a handful of people. The fact that
how low he will stoop to protect the interest of a handful of people sounds familiar. The gaslighting is real. Let's hear that again.
Towards governance, and this president criminalized approach towards governance, and this president clearly continues to show how low he will stoop, you know, in order to protect the interests of a handful of people. The fact of the matter is, he's been president of the United States of America for less than 200 days, and he has been a miserable disappointment and a failure.
Have you had any communication with federal authorities about the possibility?
I'm sorry, this is just so
a
funny.
Miserable disappointment and a
He's talking about himself.
President
this is so funny.
of the United States of America for less than 200 days, and he has been a miserable disappointment and a failure.
Have you had any communication?
He really wanted to go to jail.
200 people. The fact of the matter is, he's been president of the United States of America for less than 200 days, and he has been a miserable disappointment and a failure. He is better as who will stoop. This president clearly continues to show how low he will stoop, you know, in order to protect the interests of a handful of people. The fact of the matter is, he's been president of the United States of America for less than 200 days.
He's talking about himself. God, you're protecting the handful of your Hispanic KKK down there, and these illegals that don't want to do what they're supposed to do and would rather tear up America because of whatever ire and envy that they hold in their hearts that you keep fanning the flames of. But okay.
And he has been a miserable disappointment and a failure.
Have you had any communication with federal?
He's just taking notes from the comments under all of his posts on X at this point and just putting Trump's name on them. Because that's what we say about you, sir.
Authorities about the possibility of bringing out the National Guard here or seeing Marines in Chicago?
I have, complete confidence that between those who are protesting, who want to ensure that their message is brought to the federal government, that they'll be able to effectively do that. Any need beyond our local police department as we assess the full situation, this is not something that even the state of California called for, right? I mean, so.
Time is a curious thing. Sometimes I feel like it was yesterday. Sometimes it's
not okay.
I guess quite.
This president's desire to not only militarize and criminalize, but his commitment to drive chaos is something that I've said from the very beginning is not only reckless, but it's incomprehensible, quite frankly. So we're going to protect people's right to assemble while also ensuring that Chicagoans can get through their day-to-day.
Oh, sure.
We don't have time for a long question today, sir, so just straight to the question, and we're going to go right to Heather. Yeah.
It's that reporter. Now, he's the only one that gets like a whole like preface, like, oh, don't start with all the questions. Get to it. We got to go. Like, and we're going to cut you off if you don't ask your question. What the hell? You wasted 30 seconds of his time just giving all of that. Shut up. What about free speech?
Yeah. Straight to the question. We're going to go straight to Heather.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jeez. I thought the theme of today's press conference was freedom of speech. At any rate,
look at his face.
You have called on the citizens of Chicago to rise up against ICE, to resist ICE, to...
His whole breathing pattern changes. I love it. I love that William Kelly puts the fear of God in this man.
To fight back against ICE. Many Chicagoans, including black and brown, tell me that sounds like a call to violence. In light of the violence that we're seeing in Los Angeles now, the looting, the damage to property, the attacks on law.
What are these tics? Like he's on some sort of meds, you guys. Please, someone put him in rehab and get him far, far away from Chicago.
Enforcement. Would you consider withdrawing that violent call to violence?
Please do, sir.
I believe in nonviolence.
Right.
You see how short he makes his answers to him now? Because he's so scared he's going to add on fuel to the fire. But this guy's a freaking idiot. I love William Kelly. He is the press person that we all wish we could be in this room with him, asking him these sort of questions, because the Chicago media is way too soft on him. Mainstream Chicago media is way too soft on him. Hell, Forbes and like shit, I think I've even seen CNN go a little harder on him than our local media has. Like we're doing fluff pieces. I'm just trying to figure out where's the checks. Where y'all cutting the checks to? Where's he cutting the checks to y'all?
Well, you also have said that the illegal immigrants that are being targeted by ICE are the working families of Chicago. The real Chicagoans are now facing tax increases because you've spent millions of their tax dollars on migrants. They're including a grocery tax.
We need the question.
Why would you think that real Chicagoans should trust you to spend their money after you've already wasted millions of it on illegal aliens?
We are investing in people.
We are investing in people. He literally has like 5 answers for William Kelly. I don't acknowledge your question. It's not legitimate. We're investing in people. Crime is down. And what was the other bullshit answer he just gave? I can't even remember. It was so BS.
Really, honestly.
I believe in nonviolence.
Your only answer?
Yeah, we're going to go to Heather now. Thanks.
Wow.
What a
Hi, Mayor.
POS.
Hey.
I want to cast your memory back to last week when a number of alder people were protesting ICE outside a facility on Michigan Avenue, and Chicago Police Department officers and supervisors were present there.
You see how much calmer he is with the next people? Because he knows they're asking safe questions.
Are you confident that the reaction and the response of CPD did not violate the city's welcoming city ordinance or the Illinois Trust Act? Did officers act appropriately during that confrontation?
What we saw was we saw an unprecedented attack against the sensibility of our humanity. And under those circumstances, I am relieved that the number of people who were there to call attention to what ICE is doing or has done, that they were present. As far as the reaction of our police department.
So I support my crazy alderman out there doing that BS. Come on, Tom Holm and Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino. Come get this fool.
Department, their responsibility was to ensure that if there was any element of that protest that could impact the safety of.
Do you mean any part of it that could have been violence? You can't say it. Any element that could have impacted the safety. That is a long bullshit way of saying unpeaceful, violent, riot, dangerous.
Protesters and our residents, that they were there to ensure that safety was maximized.
To ensure that safety was maximized. Bro, I'm about to put one of these quotes on a t-shirt. Instead of be like, I am nonviolent. Like, instead it's going to be like, I am... What was the shit he just said, bro? It was so long.
For that.
I am about public safety and maximizing.
Responsibility. The reaction of our police department, their responsibility was to ensure that if there was any element of
I am an element of contrarian public safety. I'm an element of this is so bad. He's so bad. I am an element of disaster avoidance with hypocrisy. Clashing at a no, you can't say clash because it's too obviously violent. Public safety avoidance.
That protest that could impact the safety of protesters and our residents, that they were there to ensure that safety was maximized.
It's very important to listen first.
Translation, the police was actually there doing their freaky job trying to make sure this didn't get out of hand from the shit that I'm inciting. But I can't say it like that, so that's why I had to take a long trip around the block with all these words with you.
Talk second. That's counterintuitive for most people.
We are a welcoming city. The Illinois Trust Act is the law of the land. We will continue to uphold both of those policies. Of course, we're going to review and continue to review what went down last week. And there's an open meeting that's going to take place with a number of alders so that everyone is clear about the role that the local police department plays.
So you're investigating the police for doing their job, but not the aldermen who are outside inciting stuff. The people got deported anyway, and they kept saying, oh, we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. So clearly you failed this time because you're going to make sure it doesn't happen again, but you guys got knocked down 3 times. You stood in front of vans, and then people still ended up in cuffs in the vans and taken to where they had to be taken to. You're not going to stop it, so you're just impeding it just to incite people. It is political theater, and he is a part of it. This is a crime. You guys are aiding and abetting illegal migrants. You guys are aiding and abetting disruption and attacking ICE agents and prohibiting ICE agents from doing their jobs. These are crimes, and I need these people to be held accountable. Thank you very much. Sign, a common sense Chicagoan who is sick of this shit.
And how this particular unprecedented attack played out.
Back to a little bit of normal city news. There's a measure that just advanced out of the city's License and Consumer Protection Committee that would allow older people to ban new short-term rentals from setting up in their wards. Do you favor that initiative, which could potentially significantly decrease the amount of short-term rentals in Chicago?
You know, what I want is, I want to make sure that in everything that we do, that we continue to ensure that we're building a safe, affordable city. This particular measure, quite frankly, I'll have to look into a little bit deeper, but,
I bet you do.
I know that there are a number of alders who mean well and are trying to show up.
A number of alders that I've already blackmailed, or they've blackmailed me, and I'm already in their pocket, or they're in mine, and I just have to agree with whichever ones I already agree with. So I can't say anything here because it'll contradict what I told the other guy.
For their particular pocket of the city.
See how I said pockets and he said pockets? We mean him differently, but he know he meant it the way I meant it, but he said it different than he told y'all. You know what I mean?
Responsibility is to ensure that whatever measure is put forth, is that the impact that will or could have on the entire city, that I keep that into full consideration. And in this instance, I would do the same.
So he's clearly talking about short-term rentals like Airbnbs and stuff like that. So there's now going to be a decrease in certain neighborhoods of Airbnbs because he's trying to save properties for affordable housing, aka his friends who are already developers or who've already promised him money.
As we look towards Saturday.
What's your name?
Oh, Whitney Wild from CNN.
From CNN?
Yes.
You just, when a new student shows up in the classroom, I'm going to notice. Welcome, CNN.
I don't come as often as I wish I could.
Well, change that.
I'm working on it. I'm here today.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. So as we look towards Saturday, what do you anticipate the posture of the Chicago Police Department is going to be? There are large protests Saturday here.
He was like, we were just becoming friends and you keep bringing up the police. Please stop.
And all across the country. Again, what is the posture of CPD for Saturday? And then additionally, do you know if the city is having strong communications with the event organizers to make sure that expectations for what you can and can't provide are clear?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and thank you for being here.
They are not.
Our first responsibility is to ensure that we keep everyone safe. That is my number one responsibility.
Why would they not be safe,
It's what I think about every day, all day. The work that we have done collectively continues to drive violence down in the city of Chicago because that's something that is of a top priority of mine.
No, it's not. You took away ShotSpotter. You took the police out of schools. You do not listen to or respect the police. You do not listen to or respect anyone who comes with the facts and is not part of your socialist progressive agenda or Stacey Davis Gates at all. Okay, so let's just please stop the BS. You don't care.
And so our approach won't be that much different on Saturday in terms of what our ultimate responsibility is. And when we're talking about keeping people safe, the right to assemble peacefully is a constitutional right. So we have to protect that.
So are sovereign borders.
There are some actors that unfortunately act outside of their constitutional protection. And if that were to take place, those individuals will be held responsible and accountable. To the extent in which I can, name how we are in constant conversation and coordination with organizers, that's the strength of my administration. We talk to people.
No, there is no
Now
strength.
there are some organizers that
make it stop.
That might develop over the next week or so that we're going to have to identify. But when the large scale protests took place, as there were strong voices calling for a ceasefire and the releasing of hostages, we we demonstrated that we can coordinate with organizers of these demonstrations.
We need a recall mechanism, please, Chicago. We can never, ever do this again to our children, to anyone, okay? For the love of God.
With law enforcement to keep everyone safe. That is what my expectation has always been, and I remain committed to that expectation. You know, what's most disturbing, however, about Saturday is how the President of the United States of America is using our armed forces to celebrate him. You know, we're going to see a very grotesque demonstration with tanks and other military, high-powered military gear that reflects authoritarianism and dictatorship. That's something that as a leader,
he's like keeps foaming at the mouth with these hot button socialist terms: authoritarian, dictator, tanks, police,
leader of one of the most
never mind your 150 police detail
dynamic economies in the world. I find that to be quite disturbing. But we're going to make sure that here locally that we demonstrate what's sensible about our democracy, and that's protecting the fundamental right to protest and demonstrate and to peacefully assemble. And if individuals work outside of those confines, we'll hold them accountable.
You might already have a policy in place for this, but just on the off chance that you don't, as we see these protests roll through, and we saw high-level supervisors out, we saw Deputy Mayor Gatewood out last night. What kind of sort of spot checks are you going to do on the Chicago Police Department's response to make sure that what the goal is actually happening in practice?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for acknowledging our Deputy Mayor's presence. My administration was out there. And he wasn't the only one to ensure that those checkpoints are reflective of my vision as well as the reflection of our democracy. That will continue to happen, and there will be a constant review of our practices. We've reviewed, to your colleague's question, around what happened when ICE snuck into our city and set
snuck into our city. Yeah, they shouldn't have to sneak in. Now you're trying to make it like, see how you're trying to egg them on? Oh, they snuck into our city. Yeah, because you guys don't cooperate, so they have to. If you let people pick them up at the jail, if you let people pick them up where they were at in the jail, then you wouldn't have to worry about them being out on the street, snatching people and sneaking around your city. You guys keep showing up, causing problems. The Chicago Police Department has enough to do. So you guys need to stop going out there, your stupid aldermen, trying to get their head cracked for political points and hoping CPD show up, but then trying to act like, why y'all here? We didn't need y'all. Why you show up? We didn't need you. I was just about to get my head cracked.
Human traps. Excuse me.
Did he have to fart? I mean, what was that? Come on, you're not getting emotional. This is all bullshit to you. You crap. God, he's such a POS.
You gotta be really sick.
Tell me about it.
Sick and demented.
Tell me about it. You.
To do this to people.
Tell me about it. You.
This president's reckless behavior. I didn't know you could look worse than George Wallace.
Oh, now he pulled out George Wallace. Sir, this is crazy. Keep on trying to equate black people's pain and black people's civil rights struggles, because again, we have no home country to be deported to. We can't go anywhere else. We've been entrenched into this history and the fabric of this nation. There's multiple accounts of that, including and foremost the 14th Amendment, and you got the audacity to be trying to load the same sentiments, the same struggle on top of that kind of struggle, that kind of history, our lineage that only belongs to us, because you're an envious Haitian coward, Marxist, POS, idiot that would never succeed at anything else, and you're gonna invoke George Wallace like this was really some trying to integrate the schools type like we didn't have a right to education versus these people who not only got the right to education, they took away the right of educating our children in the schools because now teachers are overwhelmed with ESL students, with all of these extra bodies and seats that y'all are not actually accounting for, especially when I see half of them still outside begging for money on the corner when they should be in school. But then you got the nerve to get up here and say George Wallace is the same type of person that Trump is, when actually Trump is taking the burden out of the black community that you put there. Migrate legally. Immigrate legally. And if the sanctuary cities don't like it, then maybe you should let these criminals stop coming over here, or the criminal illegals stop coming over here, or let them pick them up from the jail like he was trying to do. But no, you want to sit here and use this all as political theater so you can have everybody go up in arms because you don't care about the city no way. You could care less if the city get torn down to nothing and have to be rebuilt, because now you hoping you're going to get a little grant or something that from the government so that you can go ahead and rebuild the city in your vision, and the people too.
Our team will be present to ensure that we're holding to our values. And Deputy Mayor Gatewood and his team and our Chief of Staff, all of us are ensuring that the people of Chicago are supported and protected and their constitutional rights are intact. Thank you for that question.
He is such an actor. Did they take him to an acting class?
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Along those lines,
I'm dealing with this guy.
and this may be a question for Deputy Mayor Ponce de Leon, what kind of contacts are there with the feds? If are you hearing anything from ICE or federal enforcement
She like, please don't
about
ask me a question.
plans for the near future and what they may or may not be doing?
Thank you for that
or
question.
Are they even giving you any contact?
I'm going to turn it over to our Chief of Staff.
Yeah, we've received word that...
Oh, look at that side eye. Did you see the side eye? He's like, do not let Ponce de Leon speak. You already been prepared with this question, so you answer it right now.
The federal agents...
They want a Latina. Just one of the Latinas speak. It's your turn.
...have been informed that they have 48 hours to stand by and be ready to deploy. There will be tactical teams. There will be mini tanks. There will be other tools that they use in which they plan to do raids, as we saw in Los Angeles. So that information, it's actually pretty public. It has been out there and in fact on official channels. So that's what we are aware of. We have been coordinating with the state. We have been also coordinating with the county, making sure that we have open lines of communication. And Deputy Mayor Gatewood has been doing some additional discussions, coordination, and communications internally.
I spoke directly with the governor just an hour or so ago as he prepares for his testimony at the Oversight Committee. Spoke with Board President Tony Preckwinkle. It's going to take all of us to stand firm.
He's naming all his co-conspirators, guys. You hear it? Preckwinkle, J.B. We got it. You guys are all on the same page. Cool, got it.
To ensure
Trump. Clink, clink.
Sure that our democracy is intact.
And what are you hearing from people in the community? I mean, we've heard some reports earlier this week that it's going back to when people were afraid to come outside or go to work or take their kids to school.
They're terrified. They are absolutely terrified.
Terrified of you.
And look, I remember a few stand-ups ago when I talked about what terrorism looks like. This is it.
Did he say stand-up? So like stand-up comedy? Because what this is, it's not really funny. It's really sad. It's that tragic kind of comedy. But you're a funny-looking dude.
There should be no question to what our country would look like had the Confederacy won.
Oh my God! Here he goes. He's in a corner now. He can't figure it out. So he's got I got Civil War. George Wallace, Civil War. we can't forget that he was a 5th grade history teacher. That's all he's got, guys. Remember that. So while you're getting frustrated that he keeps bringing up the Civil War and just really unrelated things, he's just going through week 12. Week 12, 5th grade social studies.
We're seeing it on full display.
This is what happens when you hire a social studies teacher, a 5th grade social studies teacher.
And
not history, not economics, not college level, not college, 101 government planning, fiscal responsibility, none of that. 5th grade, week 12, that's as far as we're getting.
There's no art form in this.
Art.
This is literally just using the power of the federal apparatus to insert its will on whomever. Right now in our country, there's
he about to write a letter. He is so mad. He is about to throw a BF.
No check and balance. It doesn't exist right now. Speaker Johnson, who is 3rd in charge if something were to happen to the President of the United States of America, won't even raise his voice.
You won't raise your voice to they're just kids. Don't demonize them. You keep raising your voice to us. You keep raising your voice to everybody except your cabinet and your aldermen who are out here all on the wrong thing right now, protecting the wrong people, doing the wrong thing. The laws are the laws are the laws. You guys are against law enforcement. You guys are against ICE. You guys are against CPD. You guys are the criminals.
As a believer in faith and justice, these individuals are cowards. They are hypocrites. They're dangerous.
Wow, everything you say just really fits you. I'm just saying, it's like, say it in the mirror, guy. Is that how you practice?
There's one branch of government right now in this country. One branch. He has taken over the courts,
Oh, somebody nervous about that DOJ. He's taking over the courts. Come get him.
Congress says nothing.
And
so people are terrified. But in the city of Chicago,
you are definitely terrified. Oh my God, look at him. He probably wearing a diaper right now. Somebody get him his meds.
We are going to remain vigilant and firm in protecting what is sensible about our existence. And that's ensuring that the Constitution is actually maintained. Here's the bottom line is this. You either support the Constitution or you do not.
Oh, wait a minute. That is really the bottom line, huh? Again, you don't like free speech. You infringed on several people's free speech in City Hall, in chambers, in council chambers. You don't like law enforcement, even though ICE is there for federal law, which is all based on constitutionality of sovereignty, again, and protecting our due process as citizens. But you don't care about that, right? You want to act like it's just federal law and just the Constitution or not. Well, what are you doing that you are upholding the Constitution? You literally keep violating our civil rights here in Chicago, here in Illinois, and have the audacity to keep focusing on Trump, who's actually doing something that will help strengthen our city and our government. But you don't seem to see that because someone has something over your head. And you probably don't have much in there other than, like I said, week 12, 5th grade social studies. Criminal detainers, illegal immigration, border crossings, no due process. If you do not cross legally, if you do not show up to your court dates, if you do not comply with seeking your proper citizenship or residency or visas. I don't know what to tell you. And other presidents have enforced it, but for some reason you're about to have a cow. I hope your diaper is really strong over this because it's Trump. But Trump. You lie.
And right now this president is literally just trampling all over the Constitution right now and doing it in plain sight. And so we're going to do everything in our power. Beatrice Ponce de Leon, Deputy Mayor, we're going to make sure that people know their rights. We'll relaunch again to ensure that people of Chicago know their rights.
What are my rights?
Yeah.
What are my rights to stop you from doing this posturing against Chicago police, who I pay taxes for, this posturing against ICE, which I voted for, this posturing to completely dismantle affordable housing, affordable businesses, anything affordable in Chicago, so that you can line the pockets of your buddies in real estate, in development, in churches. Will Hall with his album drop. I don't know what else you're paying for.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you or Mary maybe update us on the investigation by the Department of Justice into the hiring?
Not you brought this shit up after
having
you see
to
me say all
supply
that
documents?
I'm glad I stayed tuned. Hold on, this is going to be good.
Have you had to do interviews? Is that something you can address?
Just before I turn over to Mary Richardson Laurie.
I can't say nothing really. Let me tell you what the lawyer told me to say real quick, and then now I'm going to pass it to her.
This is so fraudulent.
You, my friend, you.
It's a slap in the face to the civil rights era movement. I mean, you have a president that is establishing a cabinet that looks like the country club, the oligarchs, the ultra rich, individuals who have no.
He literally just has buzzwords. He is a glossary of Marxist vomit. 12th grade, not 12th grade. He didn't get that far. 5th grade, 12 weeks.
Background and training in the very department in which they are entrusted to serve.
Oh, he's gone.
You know, we're very proud of the fact that we have a number of incredibly talented, capable, diverse individuals that are helping to transform our city. There's clearly benefit in the way my administration has approached governance. Violent crime is down, investments are up. So this is not about whether or not we're effective.
Eileen Burke.
This is about
Larry Snelling. That was like your only good pick was Larry Snelling.
So that he can continue his efforts to rob working people in this country. Mary?
You are robbing us with
How
the
women
speed
in the
cameras. They just did a study on all these speed cameras that are actually not placed in places to actually be safe, which is what the intention is supposed to be. They are money grabs. Will Hall, who I tried to address this with, but you wanted to cut me off and yell at me because you knew I was on to something, you punk.
1940s lost weight. The first ultra-processed food was Kellogg's Corn Flakes. They partnered with the United
Mary Richardson Laurie Corporation Counsel.
Yeah, get this loud.
We have begun to have a dialogue with the Justice Department regarding their letter. We did finally formally receive a copy of their letter in which they assert Title VII violations is their allegation, contingent upon the ongoing communications that we have with them. So we will be submitting a written response to them so they understand our position. They in turn are going to be submitting some questions to us to help to narrow the scope of their request. And then that dialogue will continue within the bounds of the law.
Very good, thank you.
So basically, it's too much shit for us to turn over right now. Let me translate, y'all. I'm scared with him, but I can't say it. So we gonna write a letter and ask, can we please limit the scope of this? Because if we send over too much stuff, you definitely gonna find something out. So how about your move? Tell me exactly what y'all looking for. If we can narrow this down, so we can get out of this a little bit, because I don't even think there's any hope. Why her mouth not even moving? Mary is not okay, bro. You stressing her out.
Thank you. Mayor, can you step back from all of this a little bit and talk about being
He had to drink some water.
mayor of a blue city and the challenge of that right now? Are you all on a text chain wondering how you're going to communicate for the next 3 years and 7 months?
What, so you can FOIA it?
Yes, please.
So that's a great question. What I will say is this. There are some fundamental differences between cities that are ran by Democrats and those ran by other members of different parties or a different party, Republican Party. But there's one thing, though, that is consistent, is that we know that it's at the city level is where government really shows up for people. And so in that regard, that there is a universal line of communication through the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which I believe I'm going next week to talk to mayors all over the country, and they all won't be Democrats, right? They're all concerned with what I'm concerned about, whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent or
I
otherwise.
thought they were evil. I thought they were the country club.
Community
I
safety,
thought they were George Wallace.
investing in housing, healthcare, and good paying jobs, our education system.
I'm confused.
You know, as far as, you know, Democratic cities, I will say that it is clear that there is more intentionality around the Trump administration to attack democratically ran cities. In fact,
No,
Governor
it's just 'cause
Abbott
you're an
spent
idiot.
millions of dollars attacking our city. Literally spent millions of dollars, not trying to work in collaboration
You
to
did that DOJ
coordinate
thing to
how we
yourself.
can
Broad daylight.
deal with what occurred or what was happening at the border. I will say, though, that our resolve is my resolve and our collective resolve still remains. I will say, though, that that communication extends beyond mayors. It even speaks to community groups. I'm going to turn over to our Deputy Mayor, Ponce de Leon. She can speak about some of the work that's happening on the ground and the way in which
'Cause she
we're
couldn't
all
answer that other
communicating
question.
to ensure
He said, "This is an
that we're
idiot
showing
here.
up
Let me give
for
her
working
something
people.
easy. Please let me
And
know
at
her
this
this-
time in particular,
this
our
slow
immigrant community.
curve, this slow
Thank you, Mayor.
straight
Yes, thanks for that question.
ball.
You know, our
Softball.
team is part of a network, a national network of immigrant affairs, immigrant rights offices out of mayor's offices. So we are certainly connected to them there and are seeing the types of activities that are going on in other cities as well. But locally, we meet and often are in touch with the major organizations that are fighting this and trying to inform residents. So the National Immigrant Justice Center, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant Refugee Rights, the Resurrection Project, OCAD. And what we hear is certainly people are afraid, but people are also finding ways to stand up for their rights and to get
tear up the city,
connected to resources. And just a couple of
steal from the citizens.
the challenges right now is the need for legal support for deportation defense and for legal guidance. And as you know, we try to drive some philanthropic private dollars in that direction, but also just send an invitation out to lawyers and others that might want to support.
Definitely lawyers. We need a lot of them.
Those efforts. That is the most pressing need that we're seeing right now. And then in working with these organizations, also pushing out not only the Know Your Rights information, but ways that families and individuals can be prepared in the case of a detention and what they.
Because it's gonna happen if you didn't get your shit together like we was warning you. He gave you a chance. You could have took that quick $1,000 and took yourself home, but now you want to go through all this stress because Ponce de Leon told you it'll be okay. Know your rights. But she couldn't answer any real questions. She had to take this softball.
Can do. So I am often sharing this number, but I want to share it again. There's the hotline. It's 1-855-435.
She's getting paid all this money to be a telephone operator. This is crazy work.
7693. That's for any immigration-related question or emergency. People recommend that give them a call. And
What's the
then
number for
the
ICE?
shared website that is with the state and some of the organizations. And that one is good for beyond Chicago. And we're seeing, and we might see these actions happening outside of the city as well. So that is IllinoisImmigrationInfo.org. But we are in
What's the number for
regular
ICE?
communication with those organizations.
They could let me in there. That's what I'm screaming now. What's the number for ICE?
Hi, Mayor. How are you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Woo, that was hard.
All right.
Take the
What do we
camera.
know about the ICE tactical units that are going to be sent to, you mentioned Chicago, we know LA already, Philly, other large cities that are going to be anchors for these protests on Saturday? Do we know when they're coming, what protesters should look out for or expect?
Yeah, there's another protest coming in Saturday.
Just
Trump's
as I
birthday.
mentioned before, yesterday the notice was given to agents that they have 48 hours to deploy, that there will be 5 cities that are targeted, Democrat-led cities, Chicago being one of them for sure, and that they were going to be targeting, workplaces in terms of the raids. We have
This is the
seen
easiest thing to
as
do
you know
since
how
y'all
they've
wouldn't
shown
let
up
them in
in
jail. So just letting you know
LA with the mini tanks, with arms, with also chemical agents. We have seen them in full riot gear. We have seen them fully concealed. We also witnessed last week there were deceptive practices where they text people who were expecting to go into a place to do the check-in with their immigration proceedings, and of course they were intercepted by ICE. So we can expect all of those types of tactics, inclusive of evading due process, deceptive tactics, and
So again, you didn't file your paperwork, not at least in time. And again, you likely didn't cross the border at a border crossing, port of entry. So again, the due process kind of goes out the window again. But keep your lie going, ma'am.
concealing identity, along with some of those more aggressive actions that we witnessed in LA.
And then just thinking about what happened yesterday.
What about the deceptive practice of claiming a sanctuary city is supposed to spend all of my tax dollars on all of this? What about that deceptive practice, ma'am?
Crew was on the ground when a car drove through the crowd. Is there any sort of plan to try to protect large groups from vehicles, especially when we don't really know the route? Understandably, it can be difficult.
Well, we were grateful that, in the midst of this effort by the Trump administration to create chaos, that we were able to get through yesterday.
We don't need you to get through, sir. We need you to plan properly. So again, you have the opportunity to create routes, but you're not doing it because you want to give them free reign. So you saying that you care about people not getting hurt, and you say you're not the agent of chaos, but you're inciting people, you're welcoming them to do this on top of being a welcoming city. So you've invited this whole chaotic scenario here and keep bringing attention on yourself by Trump, dictator, George Wallace, right? And then now you still have the opportunity to plan better and make routes for these people. But I guess you're what? You're telling the police, no, don't worry about it. It's cool. But if another driver drives through there, what are you going to do? You said you're not trying to impede people from getting to their work or ambulances getting through a crowd. What are you going to actually do? Let's hear if he gives us an answer here.
Without mass arrests or life-altering harm. The coordination between the organizers and the Chicago Police Department is one that we're going to continue to work to strengthen, because to your point, there were a number of organizers that, though it was structured, there has to be better coordination, and that's something that we will work on. Deputy Mayor.
Was spraying fuck ICE part of the structure? Was spraying police cars part of that structure? Let me know.
Do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that question, Sabrina. Of course, after every large incident, we do have action report to get a better sense of what we can improve. Nobody obviously expects someone to do what they did yesterday, so we'll make improvements on that. We already had a meeting this morning with some of our team on additional resources we'll need in place. We've been in contact directly with the governor's office about some of the support they can provide as well.
No one expected
So again,
to do that,
our teams are constantly thinking about ways to evolve and make sure folks are able to
Except you guys have been
protest
inciting them
safely,
for weeks
and
and
our
months,
police are
but
able to do their jobs. So that's what we'll continue to do on this one as well. With some of our team on additional resources we'll need in place. We've been in contact directly with the governor's office about some of the support they can provide as well. So again, our teams are constantly thinking about ways to evolve and make sure folks are able to.
The same governor who said you must not give them a moment of peace, resist.
Protest safely, and our police are able to do their jobs. So that's what we'll continue to do on this one as well.
Hi, I guess this would be for Christina Pacione, ICE Director in Gatewood. In terms of when ICE says they're going to have an action, what is the protocol for CPD and what is an appropriate role for them? I was told by an activist today that under the Trust Act, it is not appropriate for them to cut off streets or do crowd control. Is that your understanding? Basically, what's the CPD's role when ICE comes in?
Let me just start off by saying that, and thank you for that question, we are a welcoming city. And
So I'm sorry. So you're telling me your understanding is that Chicago police are supposed to just let people run around the city and do whatever they want because ICE is in town? You guys sound crazy. It's not Christmas. It's not freaking The Purge. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess that's what the Safety Act actually is. I guess that's what the Safety Act actually is, and now the Sanctuary and now the Trust Act. That's what that actually is. All of these are purge laws.
That ordinance is the law of the land.
Of
the
this
Illinois Trust Act.
stupid make-believe
It's the
land.
law of the land, which simply states that our local law enforcement will not coordinate or engage or behave as federal agents. Now, if there's a federal
That's not a federal agent's job to make sure your city's protesters are in order. Just because they have up ICE signs doesn't mean this is a federal activity. This is local nuts. These are local nuts moving from town to town.
warrant that is available, then that provides space for a different type of assessment. You know, as far as the role and the responsibility of our police department, it is to ensure that protesters can live out the Constitution safely.
Live out the Constitution safely. He was about to say can do whatever they want. You heard that. He was about to slip. He had to look up and go, oh God, Brandon, you almost fucked it all the way up.
That is their responsibility. They also have a responsibility to ensure that, you know, in the event there are actions that are moving, that it is effectively coordinated, right? Because we don't want anyone to get injured. And so there's a certain element, I don't know what this person's definition of crowd control is, but I can tell you as mayor of the city of Chicago, I want to make sure that whether that crowd is 5 or 5,000 or 50,000, that they're protected. That is the role and the responsibility of our police department. I don't know if they have to add anything else to it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect you to understand what crowd control is. You're literally inciting the crowds. So can we get Snelling up here?
Thank you for that.
Okay, and so given that the CPD was there, ICE claims that they had final orders of removal for every one of the people they took. I've FOIA'd for those and have not gotten them from ICE yet. Is it your understanding that they did have those orders of removal?
Look, it's a great question. I don't know if anybody up here can answer that. Look, we're not federal agents. Like we don't represent.
A nice admission of your separation of powers here.
That jurisdiction. What I can say is that as someone who does represent 2.8 million people,
not very well.
The President of the United States of America setting human traps, it's still unconscionable. And
following immigration
I know
laws,
Chicago
it's unconscionable, I guess.
Appreciates our position of being a welcoming city. We do. You know, as far as any of those final orders, you know, that's beyond our jurisdiction.
So I can just confirm those were not presented to city officials.
I don't know. They're not required to do that. I don't believe. So, you know, we'll have to get back with you on that.
You want the lawyer to help him so bad,
because I want to be thoughtful here, because I don't want anyone to believe that somehow we are in coordination with the federal government. They're not just showing up, y'all. They're just showing up with tanks and setting human traps. There is no coordination between the city of Chicago and the federal government. There isn't. Not particularly on this issue.
But we got to go, Monica. We got to keep going. Monica, we got to keep going.
3 mistakes every.
All right, I'm done with this. You guys, you can go watch the rest of that. This guy's an idiot. We all know that. So I just wanted to show you guys the bullshit that I see when I look at this, because that's how I'm hearing it. It's just me yelling at him in my mind. But now I've shared those outbursts with you. Because this guy is crazy, and I'm praying every day that God relieves us of this burden one way or the other. By any means, Lord, we are out of options here. He doesn't seem to care either how it happens. So I thank the Chicago police for standing up tall and taking their oaths every day and going out there and doing their best work to protect the citizens of Chicago or even transients from other states that may have been paid to leave their tents for short-term rentals from Governor Newsom's beautiful California. I really don't think this man is sane. There's several of them I could be talking about, but this time I'm talking about Brandon Johnson. Everything he says about Trump, he could literally say about himself, and it's very telling. There's got to be a big stockpile of mental health resources waiting on him somewhere. I am hoping the DOJ gets to run up and through his behind, and the whole cabinet and the whole progressive caucus and all of his Party for Social Liberation affiliates, and the CTU, which has to put out their audits. I think they're already due, so we'll look up into that and hopefully get to talk about that soon. But tomorrow, Governor Pritzker, or today, by the time you guys see this, Governor Pritzker is before the Congressional Oversight Committee to basically clean up some of Brandon's fumbles and messes. And I'm sure it's going to be a time to remember, especially given Pritzker's potential presidential aspirations. Newsom's never going to get it. Pritzker, his only hope is that no one knows enough about how crappy his policies are on a national level, but he will likely get hammered tomorrow on those issues, and it's going to be glorious. So I will definitely have to do a recap of that, but I appreciate y'all tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe, comment, and I will talk to y'all later. Please take care, be safe, and America first.